All right, ready?
Yeah. Jones butt, Jones butt, Jones butt.
Jones butt, Jones butt, Jones butt. Say it with me now. Say it three times fast. Jones butt, Jones
Jones
butt,
butt,
Jones
Jones
butt.
butt, Jones butt.
In Midsomer Worthy, a series of murders threaten to ruin a choir competition. Can Barnaby and Jones solve the case, or will they start singing the blues? We're talking Midsomer Murder's 50th episode.
The history of choral music.
And Jones singing in the shower in this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsummer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsummer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric. Since this is the 50th episode of Welcome to Midsomer, we are talking Death and Chorus, the 50th episode of Midsomer Murders. It's the 7th episode of the 9th series. It originally aired September 3rd, 2006. It was directed by Sarah Hellings and written by David Lawrence. Let's warm up our voices.
Me,
La
me,
la
me, me,
la
me, 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 me. Jones butt,
la.
Jones butt, Jones butt.
Jones butt.
I'm going to leave all that in. Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
I think it's really beginning to come together. Don't you? Come together. I'm going to win this competition, Stephen. I don't want it to come together. I want it to be glorious.
On Midsummer Down, the big pretty hillside outside Midsummer Worthy, painter Connor Simpson does a watercolor of the countryside. He is supposed to be meeting someone, but they call him and cancel. So he returns home where he finds his front door open and a pig's heart pinned to his wall with a note that says, "Your cheating heart." Cue the credits. We next find ourselves at Midsummer Worthy choir practice. They are preparing at the local church for an upcoming choral competition. The choir is led by the harsh Lawrence Barker. It includes familiar faces like Joyce Barnaby, Coroner George Bullard, and Simpson. Tom Barnaby arrives to pick Joyce up and sees a mysterious figure running behind the church. Simpson collapses and choir member Leo Clark offers him a ride home, but Simpson refuses and then almost runs over Joyce as he tries off. Stephen Latimer offers to take Carolyn Armitage home, but she also refuses. Later, Latimer returns to the church to grab his folder and finds both Simpson's cell phone and Lawrence standing in the shadows being super creepy. Latimer goes to Simpson's house to return his phone and finds Simpson dead on the floor. The phone rings and a woman asks for Connor, then hangs up. Joyce and Tom are trying to have a nice dinner out, but as usual, he is called to the scene of the murder. Bullard says Simpson was killed by a massive blow to the head, most likely from the bloody fire poker left near him. This indicates that this was not a planned murder, but more of an improvised one. Kind of a yes and a bludgeoning. Because, yes and for Anyways, Jones finds women's clothes in a closet upstairs, which means either Simpson had a girlfriend or was a crossdresser. Barnaby finds a brandy glass in the cabinet that had clearly been washed by the killer, as well as the pig heart and note in the trash. He also finds a heart-shaped piece of glitter in the tub. Latimer fills them in about the event's evenings, and then Barnaby nosily asks him about his relationship with Carolyn. Rude. Latimer says they were an item once, but she ended up marrying someone else. After they leave the crime scene, Barnaby again sees the man from the churchyard, and they give chase. They manage to nab Sam Judd, who was trying to catch a photo of the owls that had been seen on Hartsmead, the Armitage property which runs right next to the church. Judd used to be the estate manager, but was fired by Carolyn's husband, Giles. Carolyn isn't thrilled by that, but Giles has a way of getting what he wants, and that way, I guess, is sex? That night, Tom is woken by Simpson's phone. Why does he have this at his home? And a woman asking for Simpson. The next morning, there's an envelope addressed to Joyce with a big note that says, "You're next." Turns out everyone on the choir got the same note. Latimer suggests they quit the competition so they aren't targets for a killer, which angers Lawrence. Leo thinks it's just a joke, and Joyce declares she's going to sing no matter what. The choir decides they will continue, but they need a new tenor. Jones finds evidence that Judd had set his tripod in a strange place where he wouldn't have been able to see the owls as he claimed. The detectives head over to Hartsmead to talk to Carolyn, but only end up talking to Giles, who tells them that the upkeep for the manor is super expensive and pointing out empty spots on the wall where old paintings are off to be reframed. As they leave, they see Carolyn talking to Latimer by a big body of water, which we can't decide is a pond or a lake. Giles sees them too and storms over, starting a fight. Jones tries to break it up and finds himself knocked into the water, so they head over to the Barnaby so Jones can get some new clothes. Well, actually, some of Tom's old ones. Joyce and Tom listen to Jones's incredible singing voice in the shower and decide he is the tenor the choir needs, as well as Barnaby's man on the inside. Next, they head over to Lawrence Barker's home, where they meet his children's entertainer wife, Ellen, who is very, very upset by Simpson's death. She even has one of his paintings on her wall. Barnaby notices a tension between the two, which is later confirmed when they leave, and Lawrence begs for things to go back to the way they were. He says everything would have been different if he had gotten that job as a cathedral organist, but unfortunately, rival choir director Frances Crawford lied on his resume and stole it from Lawrence. She says there is no going back to the way they were, and he storms off, destroying the painting from Simpson. Back at Hartsmead, Carolyn gets a call from someone asking to meet, but Giles listens in, and then he calls someone alerting them to the meeting. Giles tries to stop Carolyn from going, but when she still leaves, he follows her. She heads to the barn on her property where Sam Judd is waiting, taking photos of the owl as it flies out. He doesn't hear someone loading a shotgun behind him, and when he climbs down, he is shot dead. Carolyn hears the shot and runs to the barn, but Giles grabs her from behind, and the killer takes an envelope from Judd's body. Tourist info. We are back in Midsummer Worthy for our third visit. We've been here for Written in Blood and the Maiden Splendor, and we'll be back for Strangler's Wood, A Worm in the Bud, Death and Dreams, The Green Man, and Down Among the Dead Men. Now, Midsummer Worthy is the home of the Midsummer Worthy Choir, a champion choir group. It was also the home of a writers group that had a few issues: the Mercy Park Open Day Festival, a cricket team, a serial killer, and a group of creepy murder kids. It's also the home to a screaming owl, which probably explains why everyone wants to murder people there.
The unnamed church is played by the lovely St. Mary's Church in Denham, Buckinghamshire, and you get several nice shots of the quaint houses that line Village Road on the way to the church. Hartsmead House is played by Britwell House in Britwell Salome, Oxfordshire. It's a Georgian house built in the 1720s with additions added in the 19th and 20th centuries. You can get married there, and as of this recording, there's a 2-bedroom wing of the house for rent. Please contact the estate agent. Probably Miss Beauvoisin.
All right, so this is our 50th episode. High five, Eileen.
High five.
High five. We're on online, so we can't do that. But we decided for our 50th, we will do their 50th, which is this episode. And apparently, the cast didn't even realize this was the 50th episode until the end of filming, when they got to have some cake and champagne.
Wait, where's my cake and champagne?
Uh, I'll get you some later. This episode, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I think this is probably like full of like Easter eggs before people would actually have like thought they were Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of like call outs to things in previous episodes. The big one is Written in Blood. I
Mm-hmm.
felt not only is the actor John Shrapnel,
Yeah.
who was in that episode, is in this episode, but it also, that episode featured a character that was a crossdresser.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jones pulls the women's clothes out of Simpson's closet, he's like, "Is he a crossdresser?" And it was like, I mean, it could be. It could, maybe this is like villages love to have like, there's a lot of like groups of people in these villages.
I love that he's very cheeky about it. It is not judgmental. He holds it up to himself in a way that is very kind of self-deprecating, very uh Nick Kendricks as Jamie Winter like in a way
Yep.
where he's very comfortable with, with his little joke. It doesn't impact his masculinity to hold this red dress up to himself and says, "How do I look?" That would be very different from what Troy's reaction would be all, "Ah, there's a dress. I'm not going to touch it. He's a crossdresser. He's gay. Ah."
So I thought there was other little call outs. For example, ring, like the whole obsessive
Mhm.
leader of a competition,
Yeah.
musical competition set in a church, calls out the bell ringing episode, I believe, Ring Out Your Dead.
Mhm.
But also, Ring Out Your Dead had those really weird big printed signs,
Mhm. Yeah.
much like everyone was getting in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely had a "Ring Out Your Dead" callback to it. In fact, there are times when I'm watching one of them and I think I'm thinking back to them and I'm thinking, "Was that in this one or that one?" Because sometimes I get them confused in some details. And of course, the standard Joyce getting left at the restaurant.
That's
Yeah.
more of a motif.
But it had to happen in this episode.
Yeah. I personally thought the episode started a little slow, a little dry, but about 20 minutes in, I think once Simpson gets murdered, it starts firing on all cylinders.
Mhm.
I felt like they could have cut some of the opening stuff down a few minutes, but
Mhm.
I really enjoyed this episode.
I think this is just kind of a good classic. Everything you want in a midsummer episode. It's not the best. It's not the worst, but it's enjoyable and fun, and it hits the spot.
It also has the owl screaming.
Yep.
What was that?
Hmm. The
What?
owl was just like this funny thing that just ran through it, and there are other episodes that have those owls in them, and I think they have a like an owl wrangler person who like a trainer who they contract to get these owls to come in every so often, as well as a fox trainer, because they all every once in a while we
Yeah,
see nice little foxes.
and a butt trainer because every
And a
once in a while you see Jones's butt.
yeah, that was almost more than Jones's butt.
We'll get there. We'll get there, Eileen. Have some water.
I'm there already.
Um.
I am there
Okay.
already.
All right. So this episode obviously centers around the Midsummer Worthy Choir and the choir competition. While there was obviously recognizable actors, the remaining members, the ones who were actually doing the real singing, they featured members of two real choirs, the Benson Choral Society and the Wallingford Parish Church Choir. And they were singing the closing eight-part chorus from Bach's Saint Matthew Passion, also kind of dealing with the Bach portrait that we talk about later in the episode.
Hmm.
And the magical they were singing was the Farmer's Madrigal Fair Phyllis.
Yeah,
And of course, Joyce and Bullard are in the choir.
of course.
Of course, they're in a choir. Like, Tom at least is like a detective. Joyce is more like Jessica Fletcher, where everywhere she goes and has a extracurricular activity or a visit or a trip, someone dies.
And the thing is, Nettles actually has a very good singing voice, so he would have been a nice addition to the choir.
Yeah, but that's grunt work. And we all know what he does with grunt work.
He pawns it off on Jones.
Yep. Um, and of course, like there's a pivot point here. There's a big scene where we see Jones singing in the shower. Calm down, Eileen. Um, so the question is Jason Hughes singing in this episode? And the answer is yes and no.
Mhm,
In the choir scenes, he is singing.
mhm.
However, you can tell it's quite obviously not his voice
Yeah.
in the shower. It's at least an octave
Mhm.
difference. So apparently, in the actual shooting, he did sing, and he was singing the English translation of "O Sole Mio." And this is all comes from apparently the director's commentary for the DVD on this episode from Hughes.
Okay.
Now, "O Sole Mio" is a classic Italian Neapolitan love song, but apparently the English translation lyrics and that's what he was singing,
Mhm.
were owned by the estate of Elvis Presley,
Yeah.
who was going to charge them an arm and a leg to use that audio. So they had to get an opera singer in to do the original Italian version, and they just dubbed that over Jones.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously very dubbed, and it feels kind of weird because you would think he would be singing a song that would be in English. I mean, this is Jones. He's a nice good Welsh boy,
Yeah.
just recently promoted from policeman, beat cop. And for him to be singing Italian opera, like a
It's hysterical.
Italian, tenor.
It feels like something from the 50s,
Yeah.
like an old fit, like a Lucy episode, or
Yeah.
maybe like an old, like Bugs Bunny cartoon,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, so Jason Hughes in real life, he at the time of he was shooting this also played guitar, I believe guitar, and sang in a small band called Butterfly Mac Queen, MacQueen, which sadly I cannot find anything online. There's
Oh.
no the problem is like also Butterfly Mac Queen, like just type that into Google, it wants to turn it into Butterfly McQueen,
McQueen,
you
the
know the
actress.
actress. Also there is a punk band or a blues band or something like that called Butterfly McQueen.
Mm,
um, but I could not find any. I mean, I'm guessing there's probably no real video, or like this is probably this is all pre YouTube and stuff
yeah.
like that. But if anyone out there knows where we can watch footage of Jason Hughes playing and singing in Butterfly McQueen, please contact us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. Also, please send Eileen any videos of Hughes's butt to what's your email address?
Welcome to Midsummer
Midsummer at gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Back to the choir. So this is the choir is led by Lawrence Barker, who, again, very similar to the Bell Ringers episode, is obsessed with winning this competition
Mhm.
to the point of absolute cruelty to the choir members.
Mhm.
His version of praise is that wasn't a complete disaster.
Yeah. High praise indeed.
Yep. And he wants I kind of like that what does he want? He wants them to be glorious.
Yeah. And you get the similarity between Adrian Scarborough's character in uh
Ring out your
Ring
dead.
Out Your Dead and Capaldi's character here. With that obsession, you almost at some point expect him to just take over the way that Adrian Scarborough's character does and with the bells and starts playing them all himself. Though that's a little hard to do when you're doing choral music.
That would have been an amazing shot. It's just like dark in the church. He's like la la la
Yeah,
la 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 loo, loo, loo.
doing all the I can do it all myself.
But that's the thing is that like both Scarborough and Barker is session.
Mhm.
Um it is a recurring theme in Midsummer with these competitions. Someone is always obsessed with winning
Yeah,
to the point of insanity.
yeah.
To the point of misanthropy
Mhm.
or misanthropy. Um, and I don't even know if the choir was good. I really don't. They sounded fine to me. But like the thing is like we get Francis who says they're not good enough to win,
Mhm.
while Barnaby is like listening to the music and just be like, like that opening shot of where we see Nettles, and he's just like, the beauty of choral music on his face.
Yeah,
They get the standing ovation.
yeah,
We hear them sing a little bit, and they get this massive standing ovation. The catch is we never see any of the other choirs,
yeah.
so it's like it's a thing of just like we are told they're good. We don't. I don't know. I'm okay. I mean, it's not the point of this episode. I did. It was just like I would have loved to see their competition, like just a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
that would have been
It,
nice to say, "Hey, here's a quick shot, shot of this while they're," or even
yeah,
just like over music while they're, chasing after
yeah.
somebody else.
I mean, in Ring Out Your Dead, we do hear the other people bell ringing,
Yeah.
and they even go, "Oh, they messed up,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten that. I'm really happy they had a character tell me.
Yeah. And the thing is, I am not a trained music person. I read a lot about music for this episode. I understood very, very little of it. I can't tell who's a tenor, who's a bass, who's an alto, who's a soprano. I mean, I really do not have an educated ear to be able to tell. So it wouldn't have made much difference to me, but I did appreciate that in Ringing Out Your Dead, they did have somebody because they knew it was a little more obscure, and they did have somebody say, "Oh, he messed up there."
I'm happy they won.
Yeah.
Um, Turns out Francis can shut up because he doesn't know. Apparently, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Um, and then I did love when they have the meeting about like after they've received the notes,
Yeah.
they've all shown up just waving their notes that says "You're next."
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just like, wouldn't those be evidence? Or why isn't anyone collecting
Yeah.
these?
You're next. Yeah.
Also, uh, also, if everyone's next, then nobody's next.
Yeah. That is true. It's hard to have a collective "you're next."
All right. Do you want to do history corner?
Sure.
So I obviously because choirs and choruses are a big part of this episode. Eileen, you're taking us the history of choral singing.
Yes. Singing in groups has a long history dating back to at least the ancient Greeks. Both religious ceremonies and theatrical productions involved singing in groups, and the Greek chorus of ancient Greek drama sang their lines. The ancient Romans also sang group hymns to their gods. Sometime between the 4th and 6th centuries BCE, as the Christian churches were developing and codifying rites and masses, plain song became part of church services. The most famous of these were Gregorian chants, a form without harmony or accompaniment called monophonic music. If you were alive in the mid 1990s, you will remember the weird popularity of Gregorian chants. In 1994, Angel Records re released an album called Chant, recorded by the Benedictine monks of Santo Domingo de Silos sometime in the 1970s. Yeah, it was a major hit. So popular, in fact, that a sequel and a Christmas album were soon released. Anyway, that's monophonic music. In the later Middle Ages, in the 12th and 13th century, polyphony developed in and around Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It is a more complex style involving multiple melodic lines sung independently. Two early composers of what is known today as the Notre Dame School of Polyphony were Léonin and Perrotin. Both monophonic and polyphonic music were popular not only in religious music but in folk songs around the world. There are many different types of polyphonic music, which reached its apotheosis during the Baroque period, as exemplified in works by Bach and Pachelbel. It had developed considerably during the Renaissance, creating a rich tapestry of sound that filled all those big Gothic churches. The madrigal, choral songs that were more secular in nature, also developed during the Renaissance. Initially stories about unrequited love, it developed into songs about the seasons, pastoral life, and eating and drinking. The Midsummer Worthy chorus sings a madrigal, Fair Phyllis, by John Farmer. On the more sacred side, masses were generally sung in Latin, with the choir in the chancel, which is the space between the main part of the church, known as the nave, and the altar. Alternatively, the choir could also be in the apse, which is the space behind the altar. The part of the church where the choir sits is also called the choir, and was often separated from the nave by choir screens or rood screens, which were elaborately carved partitions. One of the most famous choral pieces of the Baroque period is Messiah by George Friedrich Handel, with its stirring Hallelujah chorus. It's an oratorio, which is a narrative piece of music based on the King James Bible. Johann Sebastian Bach's St. Matthew Passion is also an oratorio, part of which, according to the midsummermurders.org website, was the other piece performed by the Midsummer Worthy Chorus. Mozart's Requiem and Haydn's The Creation are examples of how choral music continued to develop in the classical era, while works by Brahms, Mendelssohn, and Verdi exemplified the Romantic era. Choral music in the 20th and 21st centuries have been influenced by more modern techniques and international traditions. Of the many types of choirs, the adult mixed choir is probably the most common. It consists of male and female voices in soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Male choirs consist of men and boys. A men's chorus is a choir of adult men. A boys' choir is made up of boys whose voices haven't changed. A women's choir is made up of women singing soprano and alto. And a children's mixed choir consists of boys and girls. Choirs can sing a cappella or accompanied by a single instrument, a small ensemble, or an entire orchestra. While not a rigid definition, choirs are generally affiliated with churches while choruses perform in theaters or concert halls.
You know what I find most impressive by that?
Hmm.
You did all of that and didn't once mention the TV show Glee.
I didn't like the TV show Glee.
Yeah, it was fine.
I mean, I watched one episode, it was like, meh.
Not enough murder.
There was no murder. I mean, seriously.
Ugh.
Nobody was murdered in that show. And people should have been murdered in that show.
Coming in hot for Glee.
Jane Lynch could have had her only murders in the school early.
Do you want to take us through cast highlights?
Sure. Ronan Vibert was creepy husband Giles Armitage. Vibert was a Rotograd who also sang in a band as a young man. He appeared in Jeeves and Wooster, Rome, The Borgias, Penny Dreadful, and Carnival Row. If you think that he has a resemblance to Alan Rickman, you are not alone. It's even mentioned in his IMDb. He passed away in 2022 from a short illness, but for some reason no one seems to know what that illness was. Scott Handy played guy who just can't let go, Stephen Latimer. Handy is a Cambridge man and was a member of the band Ice Cold and Alice in the late 80s. He studied acting at the Central School of Speech and Drama and performed in a number of RSC productions. He also did some work with the famous Wooster Group in New York City. He's been in Napoleon, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, The Village, and A Knight's Tale. John Cording played bird enthusiast Sam Judd. He's a Welsh actor who appeared in Superman, Da Vinci's Demons, Casualty, and The Watcher in the Woods. According to the Monster of Voice Cardiff website, Judd's voice is warm, natural, and trustworthy. We have a lot of return visitors in this one.
Yeah. More return visitors than not.
Yeah. John Shrapnel was for some reason in the choir Leo Clark. We met him previously, as stated already, in Written in Blood. Shrapnel was a member of the RSC and the National Theatre for many years and appeared in a number of productions. On screen, he was in Notting Hill, 101 Dalmatians, Nicholas and Alexandra, Gladiator, Troy, and Alien Autopsy. He passed away in 2020. And yes, he was related to Henry Shrapnel, who is the person that gave us the term shrapnel. This is our first time seeing Alwyn Taylor as Dr. Catherine Kath Bullard. She's also Kath in Faithful Unto Death, Beyond the Grave, and Death and Dust. Not a lot of info on her online, but she's appeared in EastEnders, Hollyoaks, Doctors, and The Snowman. Annabelle Apsion played party clown Ellen Barker. We saw her eating a lot of sweets in Dead Man's 11. She's been in Emmerdale Farm, Lolita, From Hell, and About a Boy. She's probably best known for playing Monica Gallagher in the original UK Shameless, as well as Violet in Call the Midwife. She is the co-founder and practitioner of the Rosen Method Bodywork, an alternative medicine practice which can be very useful for victims of trauma. Perhaps she can help Carolyn. Patrick Drury was artist and lover Connor Simpson. We will see him again in Who Killed Cock Robin. He is a Rotograd who appeared in I, Claudius, The Crown, Ripper Street, and a bunch of filmed RSC productions. He played shop owner John O'Leary in the classic sitcom Father Ted. He also played, and this is verbatim from Wikipedia, the bartender slash Lawrence of Arabia in the classic Harp Lager advert from 1992, which featured the camel who exclaimed, "Hey Lawrence, give us a pint of harp and a packet of dates, please."
I watched that ad. It is bonkers. It is for people like our English listeners who of a certain age probably know this ad. For American listeners, so the ad features a time traveler who manages to come back from time, goes to a bar, orders a harp from Patrick Drury, who's playing the bartender, and when he says he's a time traveler, Drury says, "And I'm Lawrence of Arabia," and then a bunch of other things happen, like a pig flies around the
Mm.
bar in a little plane, and then the camel sticks comes in and calls him Lawrence of Arabia. It is a very bizarre ad, and does feel like they might have had a lot of harp when they were coming up with it.
Among many other mind altering substances.
Yep.
Sarah Stewart was constantly escaping Carolyn Armitage. She's also in The Flying Club. She's a Scottish actress who appeared in Sugar Rush, Fresh Meat, Holby City, and Batman Begins, where she played Bruce Wayne's mom, Martha.
Close enough.
Close. Martha.
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 My mom was named Martha.
She played Professor McGonagall in the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child stage show, and she's also a breast cancer survivor who does a lot of outreach to promote awareness. Michael Fitzgerald was soundman Francis Crawford. He's also in The Magician's Nephew. He's appeared in Drowning by Numbers, Wild, American Crime Story, and Doctor Who. He is also in the film Love Actually, playing Laura Linney's brother, the one who is in the hospital and keeps stopping her from hooking up with a hot guy. That was the dumbest storyline. Just let her have sex. Yeah, Love Actually is a mess.
Checks out.
We also had Anthony Farrelly back playing an uncredited police officer, and Joya Fitch is uncredited as a waitress, and some poor woman who walks into a graveyard and sees a dead body.
Yep. Completely uncredited. I don't know who that actress is.
Yeah, she just, some local who, was visiting a grave and they just happened to catch her at the right moment.
What's all these cameras? What the hell? Is that a dead body?
Our village star this week is, of course, Peter Capaldi, who played demanding choir master Lawrence Barker. Capaldi is an award-winning Scottish actor who is probably best known for playing the 12th version of Doctor Who, but he's had a long and varied career. In art school, he was the front man for a punk band called the Dream Boys, with the comedian Craig Ferguson on the drums. He had his first on-screen role in the film Living Apart Together way back in 1981. He had a busy career acting in guest roles in films and television, and he even did some film directing. He won the Oscar for Best Short Live Action Film in 1993 for Franz Kafka's It's a Wonderful Life, which he also wrote. In 2005, he got the role of political spin doctor Malcolm Tucker in the satirical comedy The Thick of It, which was created by Armando Iannucci, who would go on to create Veep. Capaldi would win a BAFTA for the creatively foul-mouthed performance and would play him in the film spin-off In the Loop. In 2013, he won the role of Doctor Who, taking over for Matt Smith, and would play the character for 4 years. Since then, he's appeared in The Suicide Squad, The Personal History of David Copperfield, The Devil's Hour, and Criminal Record. He also appeared in Paddington and Paddington 2, along with every other British actor.
I thought he was great in this. He has a great performance in this. I love Capaldi.
Oh, I do too, yeah.
he is a truly gifted actor,
Yeah.
who does comedy well. He does drama well. His The thick of it is fantastic. And I did love that when he was announced as Doctor Who, a lot of people were like doing like Doctor Who mashups with Capaldi as that character in the thick of it, who has a lot of says a lot of words that we would bleep.
Here's a fun fact for our fans out there, if there are any. And we do know that there are. We have
We
fans.
got at least one email.
Yeah. I was actually at Eric's apartment in Brooklyn when they announced Capaldi
Oh, that's right.
as the
When they
new
had the
Doctor.
special.
Yeah, when they had the special.
Yes.
I love that he plays grumpy so well, and I always had as well as kind of he also does manic very well, but he has this grumpiness and that he kind of brought to the Doctor, and it was kind of this older, wiser, more cynical Doctor that I very much enjoyed, but it was a very different take than David Tennant and Matt Smith and even Christopher Eccleston. But my favorite scene with him as the Doctor is in the Husbands of Earth song, where he has that final scene with Alex Kingston, who is amazing, and they're on the planet and they're having their last night together, and it is just so beautifully done. It makes me cry every time. So Peter Capaldi, if nothing else for that scene, is like one of my favorites.
What'd you think about him in this episode?
I loved him in this episode. I mean, he when he's on screen, you can tell he really is a presence. He really does dominate.
I mean, he does like this. He's creepy at
Mhm.
times. He is heartbreaking at times.
Mhm.
I don't quite understand that scene where he is sitting there with his wife while his wife is getting ready for her performance, and like who's to blame, that little who's to
Mm.
blame monologue.
Yeah.
There is quite a few monologues in this episode.
Mhm.
Um, but the scene at the end when he is just broken,
Yeah.
he's
Amazing.
just like, yeah, it was so well done.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back with the second half of Death in Chorus. And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Death in Chorus.
I should have left you years ago. A failed actress, failed wife.
Things could be different, Alan. Even now.
I don't love you. I don't know that I ever did.
The next day, Judd's body is found in the church graveyard. Bullard tells Barnaby and Jones that the body had been there for about 15 hours, and from the lack of blood, it had clearly been moved. After Barnaby finds a roll of film in Judd's coat, they easily track bloodstains back into Hartsmead and the barn. The crime scene again makes them think the murder was rushed and improvised. They go to the main house where Giles lies and says Carolyn is bedridden after flipping her ATV, but Barnaby sees her in the window. She tries to call someone, but Giles takes the phone away from her and gives her something that knocks her out. The detectives have to return to Simpson's house because someone managed to lure away the police officer guarding it and break in. Jones reports he can't find any evidence of Connor Simpson even existing before he arrived in Midsummer Worthy, and they will need his fingerprints to find out who he was. They find pages in one of his photo albums missing and a tuning fork similar to one Lawrence uses. Meanwhile, Lawrence calls Ellen from the pub and tells her he's scared that it's all gone wrong. Francis overhears this and thinks it's about the chorus, and is thrilled, and then spills that he knows what the Midsummer Worthy choir is singing in the competition, which he should not know. Lawrence throws a beer in Francis's face, and the two fight, with Francis saying he'll kill Lawrence. Later that night, Carolyn tries to make another call, but finds the phones ripped out and Giles ready to drug her all over again. The next day at choir practice, Jones is given Lawrence's highest compliment, that his voice is passable, and the whole choir is not a complete disaster. Carolyn bursts into the church and collapses, followed by Giles. Jones tells Barnaby that she was pointing at something, and Barnaby realizes she was pointing at a copy of a portrait of Bach by the artist Haussmann. The original is supposed to be hanging in Hartsmead, but it is one of the paintings Giles has sent to be reframed. Giles won't let Barnaby speak to her and continues to administer something to her. Barnaby and Joyce have dinner with Bullard and his wife, Kath, who is also a doctor. He asks Kath if he can find out who actually is treating Carolyn. Later, she tells him, completely breaking privilege, that she can't find any records of doctors treating Carolyn for anything recently, and no sedatives have been prescribed to her. Later, Barnaby watches Joyce speed dial Cully and realizes that Simpson's phone, which he still has, might have numbers programmed into it. He finds Ellen Barker's number on the speed dial So the next day he goes to their house and while talking to them, hits the speed dial button and freaks Ellen out when she sees who is calling. Barnaby says he knows that she was having an affair with Simpson from her glitter in the tub. She tells him that Simpson and her just started as sex, but developed into love. He never told her his secrets, but said he was going to get enough money soon to start a new life somewhere and wanted her to come along. She's been unhappy with Lawrence for years, and while Lawrence genuinely loves her, she may never have loved him back. Brutal. She leaves, and Barnaby shows Lawrence the tuning fork and gets him to confess. He says he wanted to destroy any evidence of the affair, so he broke in and stole the photos. Barnaby leaves a very broken man alone, and while Ellen asks Barnaby if she could have a specific painting Simpson did for her. At Heartsmead, Carolyn continues trying to escape, and Giles' partner tells him that they will have to take care of her for good. Meanwhile, Barnaby and Jones sees the same dark figure in the churchyard that they thought was Sam Judd, and they chase this person down and discovers it's Francis holding a very large portable microphone and recording equipment. He has been sneaking around choir practice and recording them. He also sent the "Your Next" messages to the choir. He needs a win because, thanks to Lawrence's rumors, people think he did lie to get the job, but he claims he didn't. Then the detectives get a chance to look at Judd's pictures and sees that Carolyn was in them with Giles lurking in the background because that's what Giles does. This is the excuse they need to finally talk to Carolyn in their murder investigation. So they head to Heartsmead and arrive as Giles is attempting to drown a drugged Carolyn. Barnaby pulls her out of the water in the nick of time. They arrest Giles, who claims he was just trying to stop her from committing suicide. Doctors say Carolyn was given a ton of Hypnol, which creates short term memory loss, so she does not remember what she saw in the barn when Sam Judd was killed. Simpson's fingerprints come back, and we learn he is Connor Pearson, a convicted art forger who specializes in old masters, in painting the old masters. Otherwise, that just sounds rude. Barnaby thinks he has it figured out, and he pulls all the protection off Simpson's place to lay a trap. Sure enough, someone breaks in and begins going through the paintings until they find the Houseman Bach portrait. Barnaby steps out, and we see it is Leo. He threatens to burn the painting, but Jones manages to blow out his lighter. In custody, we get the reveal. Simpson, Leo, and Giles all loved gambling and met when they played poker. Now, all three had money needs. Leo's business is not doing great, Simpson wanted to run away with Ellen, and Giles has thousands of pounds of gambling debts. So the three somehow hit on a plan to forge a copy of the Bach, which they could put into Heartsmead while they sold the original and split the profits. So Giles took the painting away, claiming it was going to be reframed. Simpson makes a copy, and then Leo would handle the selling of the original. But Simpson got greedy and decided he would just keep the original and they wouldn't be able to do a damn thing about it. So they sent him the pig heart to try and pressure him, but when Leo went to see him after choir practice, Simpson basically told him he was going to take it all. So Leo snapped in rage and killed him with the fire poker. He tried to find the painting that night, but was interrupted by Latimer arriving. What Leo didn't know is that Judd never liked Giles and had been following him. So Judd had overheard the plan and had photos of all three of them with the Bach, which he was planning to give to Carolyn. When Giles overheard their meeting plans, he told Leo, who was the one who shot Judd. Now, Carolyn did see Leo with the shotgun, but Giles took her home and the two began drugging her to see if she would forget. When she wouldn't stop trying to escape, Giles decided they needed to kill her. At the choir competition, no one could find Lawrence and they can't decide what to do and don't seem to care that Leo isn't there at all. When it's their turn, Bullard rallies them and says he will conduct. Barnaby is missing the competition as he drops off Ellen's painting tour, but have done that the next day. She says Lawrence has left town because he no longer cares about the competition. Well, turns out he wasn't needed because Barnaby arrives just in time to see Midsomer Worthy win.
Yay.
So no real strange kill this time, but the decision to display Sam Judd's body in the graveyard is definitely strange, especially as it took the detectives all of 5 minutes to find the actual murder site. We also got the fun details of crows going for Judd's eyes and the fox licking up Judd's blood on the ground.
Yeah, these were not the smartest murderers.
Also, I'm pretty sure because the murder took place on Heartsmead property, they
Mhm.
would have had a warrant to search the entire home and
Mhm.
talk to Carolyn immediately.
Yeah, yeah. And they didn't do a very good job of even cleaning up the barn of any
No,
signs of the murder. Yeah.
it was terribly done.
These were not smart people, as
No,
Deep Throat says.
no, they were not. Let's just jump into our talk about the killer because again, they are not smart. It's Leo and Giles. It's an excellent mystery
Yeah.
around the why of it, but Yeah, Barnaby was real lax this time.
Mhm. Yeah.
They all met at that high stakes poker table that apparently was just the three of them.
Mhm.
So basically, weren't they just taking money from each other?
No, there was another guy there, the kind of the thuggish looking guy with the beard
It's probably that boxing promoter from
from
or
the
what's his
boxing.
name, or the rich guy.
Yeah.
And then Giles is just a terrible gambler.
Yeah.
And they decided to form their conspiracy at the pub. We were surprised to learn that somebody overheard us. Yeah, you did it at the pub.
Yeah. Not the smartest guys in the room, are they?
No. When they showed that close up of the empty spot where the painting was supposed to be, I knew that was going to be key to this episode.
Yeah.
That's one of those cheap directing things. It's just like, we have to have a shot of this so people know it's important.
There are a lot of things that are kind of a little obvious. I mean, it's obvious that Giles is involved in this
Yeah,
really
that's,
early on. Yeah.
yeah.
Personally, I think it was very obvious that it was Francis in the church graveyard because when he arrives at the pub, to where Joyce and Barnaby are having dinner, he's dressed in the exact same outfit.
Which Barnaby should have noticed.
Yes.
The pig heart and the note was a nice touch.
Mhm.
And then they just put it in the trash.
And is that why he collapsed at the
I have
choir
no
practice?
idea.
Yeah.
They don't explain that. Look,
Yeah.
a lot of people are collapsing at this practice.
Yeah.
No one seems to be that worried.
Yeah. It's just weird that it's kind of it just seems to be a plot device that doesn't really get explained anywhere.
The most I could figure it out is he's really tired from all that art forging and all that sex with Helen Barker.
Yeah.
I just can't hear.
Yeah.
I need more B12.
Yeah, and if he was worried, because they show him looking kind of worried as he's kind of like not singing during the choir and gets called, before he collapses. But then he gets very belligerent with the guy that could quite possibly murder him because he's in with him with on a criminal conspiracy.
Well, that's that clear thing of like he's the only true criminal, so
Hmm.
he is not super worried about them. But I also like he's a complicated character because we also like in this little bits that we see him, he is both a criminal, huge
Hmm.
jerk, but also really tender and loving to Ellen.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like this is like a lot of that jerkiness is also I want to run away with Ellen, and this is
Yeah.
my way to do it. And then poor Lawrence, that scene where Ellen just is like, I don't think I've ever loved you.
Yeah. That was brutal.
Yeah, it's the second time we've seen a version of that scene
Hmm.
in the last few episodes, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a gut punch.
Yeah.
But hey, a lot of people are apparently real good at sex in this episode.
It seems to paper over a lot of issues there.
And then a lot of Lawrence's actions just kind of, I think you could even chalk up his obsession with winning the competition down to his feeling of shame and his
Mhm.
wanting to feel like he could be successful at so like that like if I can win this competition I can get my wife back, if I can
Yeah.
get this job I can get my wife
Yeah.
back. And then he finds out like there's nothing he can do,
Yeah.
she just doesn't love him, and then he like yeah, don't care about this competition anymore, like what's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, and that's when everything kind of collapses because he has basically bet his marriage and his and in many ways his being on this competition to prove himself to his wife and to anybody who doubts him. And if that no longer matters, then the competition doesn't matter.
Yeah. I will say this though. I feel like we were cheated from a scene. Maybe there was a scene that was shot and they just edited it for time. I
Mhm.
feel like we were cheated a scene of just him kind of saying, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm leaving. None of
Yeah.
this without you. None of this matters."
Yeah.
So I thought it was really weird that we find out he's gone. Like we don't see him leaving. We just find
Yeah.
out that he's gone from Ellen.
Yeah.
Or did she murder him?
Yeah. She may have murdered him for all we know.
Why not?
Because all we know is that, and I understand the buildup of, will he or won't he show up for the competition? He's been so obsessed of it. Why isn't he showing up? And, you kind of think, well, maybe he's been murdered, but it doesn't make sense with the rest of the plot. So,
I mean, let's face it. She doesn't know that he didn't do it,
yeah.
right? Like if you
Yeah.
were her, wouldn't you automatically think your husband might have been the one who did it?
Yeah.
That would have been a kind of a funny scene. It was like, he's gone. He's just didn't care about the ghost. Oh, well, we caught the killer. And it was, you caught the what? It wasn't Lawrence? Oh, no. Don't go into the barn.
Yeah.
I love the fight scene between him and Lawrence, which was like
Mhm.
real vicious
Yeah.
compared to the weird Giles and Stevens slap fight.
Yeah. Yeah, Capaldi and, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Lawrence, they really make that fight believable
Oh, yeah,
in the pub, yeah.
it was great. And I kind of thought it was interesting the way that Barnaby basically just tells Francis to back off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're not pressing charges. Mostly because I don't like you.
Yeah.
Did you notice that there's a lot of doubles in this episode? Like with the two fights,
Mhm.
two like two rendezvous, two
Mhm.
killers.
2 songs that they perform for the
Yeah,
chorus.
it's a lot of weird doubles.
Yeah.
But it just struck out to me as like the two, and you think about it like all the twos, and then it kind of you come to the solution. It's two people.
Mhm.
So.
Which means they should have finished in 2nd place.
If Capaldi wasn't the villain star this week, I actually would have given it to Annabelle Apsian,
Mhm.
uh, purely for that scene where she reacts when the call comes in from Susan's phone, and her shock and panic
Yeah.
was so palpable and believable. It was like a masterful acting job.
Yeah, overall, I think there was some very strong acting in
Yeah,
it.
she's very good. You know, would have loved to have seen her at a children's party,
That would have been fun. Yeah.
especially if she's depressed.
Yeah.
Oh, kids, let me tell you about love.
Here's some glitter. Make with it what you will.
I love it when Jones like looking at the flyer and go, "Oh, is this you as the fairy?" Yes, Jones. It is very clearly her.
Yeah.
It's her. What are you, an idiot? I did catch one technical thing.
Mhm.
Just obviously when things get shot out of order, but
Mhm.
Capaldi's hair is slightly longer in a few scenes
Oh, okay.
than it is the very like it's not it's almost like they shot like like a few sort of the ending bits first
Mhm.
and then cut his hair again because it's much shorter at the beginning than it is toward it uh, 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 when they're sort of breaking apart at the end. Poor Carolyn. So her choice is: do I choose the manipulator or the really needy guy?
In that situation, I think the really needy one is, the better option. He's not trying to kill you.
I don't know, smother her maybe. As she made a bad choice. It's like, I don't think that was a good choice. Giles clearly only wanted her for her money.
Mhm.
Did not understand the upkeep of these manners. He did not sign up to be a meet and greet monkey, which I think might be the line of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that because I do look up all these manor houses that they film at, and all of them are open to the public, and so that's where they make the money to keep up these houses. Is you have to be a meet and greet monkey, or you have to hire someone to do
Yeah,
that.
don't fire the guy
Yeah,
who could be your meet and greet monkey.
yeah,
Um, especially or maybe just don't gamble all your money away, loser.
or maybe hire out, rent out that wing like they are doing in real life. You're not using it.
Go be a gigolo because apparently you're super good in bed because it gets Carolyn to do whatever you want. Like when she's like, I have to go out, and like I'm just gonna start kissing you. It's like okay, and then we get to sort of her like he's drugging her.
Mhm,
That real it's almost gothic or
mhm.
Rebecca esque, right? Like the
Yeah,
constant like drugging of her and her trying to escape and she can't and he does it like over like she just gets further and further away.
yeah. Yeah, you're right, it does have this whole gothic romance woman trying to escape in the white nightgown
Hmm.
cover of all those gothic romances with the manor house in the background. They could have gotten a scarier, looking manor house, but,
Yeah. But also, like, she makes it all the way to the choral practice,
yeah,
and then collapses, and he's right behind her. I'm like, "Hey, tackle her, dude! Just run, just tackle her
yeah.
before she goes in there." But again, complete justification for Barnaby to go into. I was like, I need to speak wellness check.
Yeah,
they really contrived a lot to like keep Barnaby away from her to the
Yeah.
point of like it was not believable. It just by the end it was like he would have been in there a day before.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they find the body, like as soon as they find that like there's a body was taken on your crime scene. We need to like come in. We need to know if you have security. All
Yeah.
this stuff. I also found it super gross that he was giving her the date rape drug Rohypnol, which many listeners will probably know that uh, Rohypnol is a drug that's often used to slipped into women's drinks to make them compliant out of it and more susceptible to sexual assault.
Yeah.
uh it was really I just it was like as soon as like we find out like as soon as like of course Giles would do that to her, right?
Yeah.
And poor Carolyn, who's just like half of her role in this episode is just to be out of it, and then she gets the scene in the hospital where not only does she have to put up with Jones telling her that her husband just tried to kill her,
Yeah.
but then he let Steven in the room. She's going to need a friend. And I feel like if we had held on to that scene for 5 seconds longer before cutting away, you would have just heard her in the other room like, what the hell are you doing here?
That was Jones being very Jessica Fletcher at that moment, though. Yes, she's gonna need a friend.
What did you think about Giles's monologue about how you get to the point of wanting to murder your wife?
I understand. I mean, it is a bit over the top and kind of weird, but it's also exactly what someone like that would do to justify himself.
Oh, yeah. It's classic, white guy.
Yeah.
But it was weirdly done. Like that whole
Mhm.
scene, it's almost like they had to reshoot it or something like that because it is completely dark.
Mhm.
You don't see any even the edges of an interrogation room, which we have seen many times before
Yeah.
in the show. It's
Yeah.
it's almost like it had a very stage
Yeah.
look to it. Like we've just lowered the lights, we've got a spot that it felt like they just did a lot of weird monologues in this episode that didn't it it felt very stagey at times
Mhm. Yeah.
in a way that Midsummer never really is.
Yeah.
So the actress Sarah Stewart has said about the drowning scene
Yeah.
that she didn't really want to film this because the lake was freezing cold.
Mhm.
Um, but apparently, when they were filming it, the stunt double's face kept getting seen, so she had to do it. But when she went into the water was so cold it almost stopped her lungs. So that moment when Nettles pulls her out and you see her gasping for air, that was not acting. She couldn't breathe.
Wow.
She also like if she appears blue, that's not makeup.
Mhm.
That was her genuinely freezing to death. After
Yeah.
the end of the shoot, she apparently ran to her trailer, turned on the shower, like piping hot water just to get any sensation back.
You can tell that it was colder when they were filming this.
Hmm.
You can kinda do that when you can tell when they're filming if it's warm or cold. Just because uh, there's a look to it, but there's also a feel to the way the actors are reacting to the atmosphere, and you can tell that they're reacting to a colder atmosphere in this one.
Yeah, it definitely had like a winter feel, but was not supposed to be winter.
Yeah.
Over at Corner, we met Kath, Bullard's wife,
Yay.
who I forgot existed.
I remember his sister more than his wife.
His sister's very standout. Bullard's wife, Kath, is a doctor who
Mhm.
is also apparently willing to break the rules of confidentiality for Barnaby.
Yep.
Did you notice the little detail? So there's a scene where we see Kath on the phone from her office,
Mhm.
and in the background, you can see kind of a weird. It's clearly an older photo of Barry Jackson that's in the frame slightly behind her. It's not in focus, but you can tell that it's that thing where something is like blurry enough, but you can still make out what it is, and it's clearly Bullard. And I love that little detail
Yeah.
because they didn't need that, right?
No, but it does ground her in his world a little bit more.
Yep.
Set decoration is always pretty good on these shows, yeah.
And so Bullard loves to sing, but he loves to conduct more.
I like that George had a good solid episode here. He had some meat to his character.
He got to do some fun stuff when he surprises Barnaby that they're having dinner together.
Yeah.
That dinner we're having
Yeah.
with you. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So because Bullard's in the chorus, but I guess he's the only coroner they have.
Mhm.
Um, but it does seem weird that Barnaby would be allowed to investigate the murder of someone he kind of knows.
Yeah. He does kinda seem to do that a lot.
Yeah, it's not right. Like, there is he the only murder cop they have?
He was good friends with the, murder in the boxing episode.
Yeah, I know. He shouldn't have been investigating that either because they would have caught him sooner. It's this isn't a small town. This is a county.
Yeah.
There should be more than just there should be at least a night staff. It's like,
Well, yeah.
are you on call for this one? No. Get someone else to do it. I know this guy.
Let Tom finish a dinner with his wife for once and have somebody else take that murder.
And tell him to stop taking evidence home. Why the hell is he keeping Simpson's phone? It's not even in a plastic bag. They
Yeah.
haven't dusted it for anything, but it's right on his nightstand.
Yeah.
How is using a shotgun an improvised murder?
Yeah, it's not really it may be spur of the moment, but it's not improvised.
Yeah. So it's not like the first one's like, you knew what you were doing the second time.
And there is a slight cheat there because with the filming, they go straight from showing Leo at the chorus practice to the murder, making it seem like they're happening at least very close together, if not at the same time.
Yep. But also, there I do not understand how Leo got into the barn without this guy. Like, it was he so like obsessed with the bird photos or whatever? I have no idea
Mhm.
how Leo. There didn't seem to be a back door,
Yeah.
although we don't really because the way they shoot it, we don't see the back of the barn really.
No.
We're always the cameras are always towards the back, but it doesn't look like there's a back door. So how the heck was he waiting there the whole time?
Yeah.
I am just want to wait till Carolyn gets closer. And Barnaby does the noble act of saving Carolyn. Which again, I'm surprised he didn't make Jones do it while also making Jones catch Giles. I'm timing you.
At least they both end up in the water this time.
That is true. That is true. Um, and you get that great Jones moment when he comes back out of the water. Well, first of all, when he stands out of the water and is like, "How are you doing?" "Absolutely wonderful, sir." And that striped suit.
Yep, that lovely striped suit. I'm surprised it took him as long as it took for him to unbutton that rather dated vest.
You've heard of pinstripes? That was pinstripes.
Yeah.
Also, he had a great moment when the owl dive bombs him,
Yeah. Let's face it, they're the most important scene in all of Midsummer Murders.
which is what?
S Jones in the shower?
Yeah. With the I thought you would approve more of the one where his butt wasn't obscured by a piece of glass.
Well, there is that one too. Okay, so the second most. Yeah, the frosted glass did get in the way, but, when he turns and you almost see a little bit more than just, the butt, frosty butt. Yeah.
Yeah. You got that was yeah, that a completely gratuitous and unnecessary shot just for all the Jason Hughes fans and Eileen.
What's great is that this is Jason Hughes's first season as Ben Jones. So Ben is, he's a young, guy, and he's still trying to feel out Tom Barnaby a little bit, as you see, though he's gotten a lot more comfortable with him by this point.
It's quite clear that Hughes wanted to do more nudity. Quite
Yeah,
clear.
he is so game for almost anything. He is obviously enjoying his, having fun with this performance.
Yeah. Did you notice that this in the police headquarters there was a sign on the billboard that said "Rat on a rat"? It was like in big letters, like the printed "Your Next" signs, but it's just on the
Yeah.
bill right behind Barnaby. Clearly says "Rat on a rat."
Which is either something weirdly sexual going on in that police headquarters,
Are they
or
saying there's corruption in a? Is there corruption in the police force? Is someone breaking the law on the Midsummer Constabulary? Maybe breaking and entering?
like, without warrants, warrantless searches. Who could
Hmm.
that be?
I also thought it was hysterical when Barnaby tells Jones that he knows Ellen was crying because, when you've been married a long time, you just know that is not a great endorsement, Tom. Like, I make my wife cry all the time, so I really know what it looks like.
Yep.
But Joyce didn't cry in this episode, and we got some great Tom and Joyce moments.
Yep.
He refuses to try new food like a baby man.
And also Buko isn't that new.
It's, it's also Buku is just beef.
Yeah.
He wants chicken pie.
Yeah.
He's terrified of rice.
Risotto, yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, like Joyce was looking at both of these things, like she was looking at both plates, like, and she looked like she regretted the risotto. I'm like, never regret a risotto. You never regret a risotto.
You know she ate that chicken pie though.
Of course, of course. And at least she got the car this time.
Yeah.
I was waiting for her to fall out of her chair. She's like, I'm gonna walk.
Mhm.
Also, I thought it was really interesting that we cut from Carolyn and Giles, who are getting ready to have sex, to the passionless marriage bed of the Barnabys.
We see them getting a little frisky every once in a while. Not as much as John and Sarah do, but you know.
No. Yep. Joyce at one point demands Tom, who is a skinflint, to
Mhm.
get a good bottle of wine, no cheap stuff, and
Yeah.
then is horrified that he spends 25 quid on a bottle.
Yeah.
What did you expect?
Yeah. That's you're going to get
Yeah.
a nice bottle of wine for that'll be about what 35 bucks depending on how the dollar is, yeah.
Do you think Tom really likes Joyce's singing?
I don't know. I love that he rolled his eyes when she stood up and declared her mission was to win, because 7 was her lucky number.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, so like super supportive, Tom. Wonder why you might know how your wife cries.
yeah. Maybe he likes her singing as much as he likes her cooking. Though if she weren't a good singer, I don't think Lawrence would have tolerated her on
That's
that
true.
choir. Yeah.
And he missed all the competition
Yeah.
to deliver a painting.
Yeah.
Even Cully showed up, man.
Yeah.
Nice to see her back for a quick pop in.
Mhm.
Also, did you notice at the very beginning when Joyce and Tom are walking out of choir practice, and you just see is a woman walking her bike behind them, but she's all in black with a big hat. I swear to God, she looks like Father Brown. Go back and watch like the opening. It's like she's just walking along behind him. And it's like,
Yeah.
is that Father Brown? And
Yeah.
she's visible in other shots. So I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But yeah, there seems to be a lot of people in black with broad brimmed hats. I would have liked a nice little shout out to the killings of Badger's Drift with a woman, nice old woman driving, riding by on her bicycle like we see at the beginning of that episode.
Yep. And it's just like hey, maybe an old woman on a bike, that was the call out, right?
Yeah.
They did a lot of fun little call outs, and I think that's kind of like we'll jump into our final thoughts. I think, you know, this was a really fun episode.
Yeah.
Great performances, solid mystery. Like I said, for me, it was a little dry to start with, and a lot of that was just laying the tracks. But
Mhm.
and there was a lot of unanswered questions, like why is Leo in the choir?
Mhm.
You just watching Simpson? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why is Simpson in the? Why are any of them in the choir?
Everybody but Joyce.
It's like, I loved forgery and I love to sing.
Yeah. Wait till you see my Broadway show.
But no, I thought this is a really great. It's a really fun. It's subtle. It's a subtle 50th episode tribute, right? Like it's
Mhm.
a the 10 and the 20 were the 10th anniversary and the 20th anniversary were like kind of
Mhm.
bigger things. But I thought they did a lot of fun little call outs without like trying to hit you over the head with how clever we are
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
of calling out previous episodes.
Yeah, I found this to be just a good classic, just what you want out of a midsummer episode. You've got the church, you've got the nice manor house with the weird people in it, you've got the quaint village, you've got owls and foxes, you've got
Oh my!
Jones's naked butt.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Foxes and owls and butts. Oh my!
Yeah. And it's just it's not It's not a top 10, but it is definitely an enjoyable episode.
Yeah, I'd put it in a top 20 though.
I might put it in the top 20, yeah. I
I would
think
put it.
it's just grounded by some really strong performances.
Yeah, and it's like it is in like always in like the top 10 of like hey before they were famous because you got the
Mhm.
Capaldi.
Yeah.
And this would have been right around the time of the thick of it. Like it would have probably been the
Mhm.
first or second year of the thick of it. So he was
Yeah.
way more recognizable,
Yeah.
and hence he got the meatiest role.
Yeah, I do think we were kind of cheated out of his farewell, scene from him, and
We didn't
that would
get a
have been great.
resolution. We
Yeah.
just kind of see him broken, and who knows? Maybe again, maybe there was a scene that was on the editing floor. Maybe he had a hard out
Yeah.
due to other something else. But
Or maybe he really is buried under the floorboards.
yeah. It's kind of the only thing that I would say is egregiously missing.
Yeah.
Like the two biggest holes I think in this are there's absolutely no way I believe there's no way that Tom wouldn't have pressed to see Carolyn sooner,
Yeah.
and there's and we absolutely kind of needed. I feel like the episode really needed that goodbye scene from Lawrence,
Yeah.
but those are really minor quibbles in an overall very strong episode.
Yeah.
Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. If you have anything you want to discuss about Death in Chorus or Midsummer Murders, please feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, say so in your email. We are also Welcome to Midsummer on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. You can also find us at Welcome to Midsummer on YouTube, where we've been uploading our old episode. Please follow us in all those places. We are getting closer and closer to being caught up on YouTube, which means Eileen and I will probably end up having to start doing videos because that seems to be the wave of the future.
Uh-oh.
Funds. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes. That really helps people find us. Tell all your friends about us. We're going to be back soon with a new episode, and we hope you will join us again. And as we take the road out of Midsummer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsummer, trying to hit those high notes can be murder.
And usually are. I was channeling Sideshow Bob in that.
Welcome to Midsummer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space. Simpson's fingerprints come back, and we learn he is actually Connor Pearson, a convicted art forger. Went Swedish chef there for a second.
You did. Jones, but yeah. All right, I'm up for it.